So today's topic will be acute coronary syndrome. I'll go quickly with the history. 58-year-old man presents with chest pain since 4 hours with the retrosternal squeezing in nature. Progressively, it increased for the past 4 hours. It did not get relieved on rest. It radiated to the left arm and it increased on walking or doing some activity. He had a significant history of diabetes, hypertension in the past with smoking about 2 packs per day for 20 years. Examination, he was hemodynamically stable except for a heart rate of 54 beats per minute. So what are all the possibilities you're thinking of? So one is thinking angina. One says MI. So what is the difference between angina and MI? Yeah. Angina is because it is not relieved on medication. Okay. So someone says MI. Troponin negative angina. So I have not mentioned anything about troponin. Okay. So we can't be very sure. At this point of time, you can think is acute coronary syndrome. So this was the ECG. Very good. So the next step what we do is you see the ECG. So this was the ECG. So now you tell me what is this one. Let's see how your approaches are. Fine. Someone says STEMI. You're saying this is STEMI. Where is the ST elevation? In which lead? Inferior wall. Why inferior wall? Someone says LAD occlusion. Someone says inferior wall MI. ST elevation and 2-3 AVF. Is that obvious? ST elevation. Okay. Hardly 1 millimeter ST elevation. Lateral wall ischemia, someone says. Okay, fine. Okay. So we'll see how it goes. Okay. So you keep thinking what is happening. So we'll come to it. So today's discussion will be mainly on the blood supply of the heart, a pathophysiology of what happens in acute coronary syndrome, localization of a myocardial infarction, where it happens, arrhythmias during ACS. I may not be covering everything today. So mainly I'll see about blood supply of the heart, pathophysiology of acute coronary syndrome, and to some extent about localization, arrhythmias during ACS tomorrow. And we'll see how we manage it. Because it is important, you should know how you manage. Okay. So I'm sure we all know about the blood supply of the heart. So we all have read in first year anatomy. All 10 marker, 20 marker, all those questions were there. So we know that the coronary artery arises from the ostia. Okay. From there is 2 coronary arteries that is going to arise. So the aortic valve has 3 cusps. One is the right coronary cusp, one is the left coronary cusp, one is the non-coronary cusp. So from the right and left coronary cusps, the coronary artery arises. So once it arises, so it is going to come, the right coronary artery is going to come here. And you see here, this is the atria, this is the ventricle. So this is the AV groove. In the right atrioventricular groove, it arises. And then it turns. It turns posteriorly. It turns posteriorly. So before it turns posteriorly, it is going to give some branches. So as it turns posteriorly, it meets the crux of the heart or base, where both the left and right side meet. That is the crux of the heart. From there, it will continue as the posterior descending artery. Okay, so before that, what happens? So here only, as it is coming here, it is going to give some branches. So one branch is going to go to the SA node. So that is called as the SA nodal artery. Then it is also going to give a branch to the AV node, so AV nodal artery. And then it is going to give marginal branches. That is going to supply the apex and the ventricle, the free ventricle free wall, and a part of the apex will be supplied by the right marginal artery. Okay. And then as it turns posteriorly, we'll come to that also. As it turns posteriorly, you will see it continues as the posterior descending artery. Similar thing happens in the left side. So there is a left AV groove. So here there is going to be a left main artery. So left main coronary artery that is going to divide into a, here you are seeing a left circumflex and the left anterior descending. Circumflex, that means it is going to flex around something. So it is circumflexing around the AV groove and it is going to go posteriorly. It will reach the AV groove. And then the left anterior descending. So the name suggests left anterior descending. So it descends anteriorly. So as it is descending anteriorly, it is going to supply predominantly the anterior wall. Part of the RV, LV, and the interventricular septum will be supplied by the LAD. Okay, and then there is this marginal branches it gives, which supplies the free wall of the LV. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show. This is the aorta that is there. So you're seeing these are the cusps that arise actually. From the aortic valve, the aorta is going to arise. So there, what happens is this is what is there. So here, from here, the right coronary artery in the AV groove. Here, the left coronary artery in the AV groove. This is the LAD. This is the LCX that turns posteriorly. So here you are seeing it is going to turn posteriorly here and become, this is the crux of the heart. So this also will meet that side. I'll show the same thing now. So if you remember this, it is sufficient. Okay. So very beautifully this is given. So from the aorta that's going to arise, this is the RCA. So initial branch to the SA node. So before that, it gives some branches here to the aorta itself. It forms an annulus called as annulus of Vieussens. Same like that, LMC also will give a branch here. So then it forms an RCA. So here it gives you acute marginal branches. Why it is called acute marginal? Because the angle is acute. So the an acute marginal branch. Then it turns posteriorly and reaches the crux of the heart. There it continues as the PDA, posterior descending artery. Okay. And similarly, what happens? The left main coronary artery divides into a circumflex branch and the anterior descending branch. This anterior descending branches is going to give a septal branch. S1, S2 is septal branch. D is for diagonal branch. So S1, so septum is here. So this is a septal branch that is going to come. Diagonal branch is going to go to the lateral wall. And important thing you see here, the posterior descending artery is also going to give some septal branches. Okay. The septum is supplied by both the RCA and LAD. Okay. So what is the importance of knowing all this is, so let's say that you have an RCA occlusion. So if you have an RCA occlusion, what all can happen is you can have a block to the SA node. If you have a block to the SA node, you can have atrial arrhythmias. So if you have a block to the AV node, if you block the AV node, what is going to happen? You're going to have some amount of heart blocks. Okay, depending upon the extent, you will get to know the heart block. Okay, whether it is first degree, second degree, third degree, all that. This can happen. Okay, this is one thing. Second thing is there is a concept called as dominance. So can someone tell me what is dominance? Dominance is based on what? Dominance is based on PDA. Correct. PDA. So very good. So whichever branch, whichever artery is going to give me the posterior descending branch. Whichever artery is going to give me the posterior descending artery, that is called as the dominance. So that's what I've written here, right dominance. So 2/3 of the people are having right dominance, which means that the PDA comes off the RCA. Left dominance is PDA comes off the LCX. Co-dominance means both RCA and LCX. It will be like a common branch that is going to give to the PDA. Okay. So that is about the blood supply of the heart. So yes, correct. So this is important. So the reason is when you have an RCA occlusion, you can have things like this. Okay. So now let's say I'll make one more statement. So let's say my left circumflex is the dominant, this one. The patient has a left dominant circulation. So that means, so are you seeing this? This is the posterior artery, means it is going to supply the posterior wall also. So let's say patient is having an occlusion here. Take two scenarios. Scenario one, normal RCA occlusion, but the occlusion is proximal here. Okay. So the occlusion is proximal here. So you can have an SA node or an AV nodal block. Along with that, you will have a right ventricular MI, RVMI it is called, RVMI. Okay, RVMI. Along with that, you can have a posterior wall extension. Okay, so these are all the possibilities. So let's say there is a block somewhere here. So then you won't have all this. Okay, but then if the patient is having a left circumflex dominance, so then if I block the left circumflex, so that means my inferior wall is going to get affected. Along with that, my posterior wall will definitely be affected. You're able to understand this? Annulus of Vieussens is not important. Yeah. So you're able to understand if this is the dominant circulation, you will have a coexisting posterior walls MI. Okay, that is clear, no? So if this is clear, I'll go ahead. Someone asked me annulus of Wissens, nothing. So as the RCA is coming like this, it is going to give a branch like this. Same like that, LCA will give. So it will form an anastomotic ring like this. So this is called as annulus of Wissens. Okay, that's all. It's going to just supply the aorta. Okay, fine. You have understood this. So we'll go next. That's what I've written. So dominance is based on the origin of PDA. Right dominance arises from the RCA, left dominance from the LAD. So this is very important. Burn this image in your retina. This will give you an orientation of the leads also. So let's say this is my RCA. So this is my PDA that is arising. So are you seeing here? So if I have an RCA occlusion, so the most commonly affected lead will be 2, 3 and AVF. Okay. So these are called as which leads? Lateral wall, posterior wall. Yeah, that's why. Yeah. Which lead supply? So this ECG is for that. Yeah, inferior wall. Correct. So that means when I have an inferior wall MI, so the most common is, what is the artery occluded when I have an inferior wall? RCA. You're able to understand now why RCA? No need to repeat. Yeah, fine. So you see here, these are the leads. Okay, so these are the leads that are there. So let's say I have an occlusion here. So that means it is going to reflect in these leads. So the electrical activity will be predominantly in these leads. So that means this is the lead that is going to be affected. So the inferior lead is going to be affected in RCA occlusion. Okay. So that is the importance of the inferior leads. Then let's say I want to diagnose a right ventricular infarction. Okay. If I want to diagnose a right ventricular infarction, then how do I diagnose? So that is why I said you that day in the first class, I think first or second this one session discussion, I told you there is modification called as right-sided leads. So whatever you're placing on the left side, you can place on the right side. So it becomes the same leads with this. So these start representing the right ventricular myocardial infarction. Okay. So this is important. So you'll use this lead modification to diagnose an RVMI. Then the next thing what you should do is, are you seeing here? So this is the anterior wall. So if I'm having an anterior wall affection, if I have an LAD occlusion, so what is the lead do you think will be most predominantly affected? Which lead is going to be affected when there is an anterior wall? If you have an LAD occlusion, which all leads you look at? You look at lead 1, 2, 3, or you look at V2, V3, V4. You look at the precordial leads. Yeah, you look at these leads, correct. You look at these leads because the leads are placed exactly anterior to the chest. So they will depict a better activity than my limb leads. Okay. So this ECG is just to represent that if what are the leads that will be affected in each occlusion. Okay. So if I have an RCA occlusion, so this is how the RCA is going to come. It's coming like this. So if it is going to come like this, this is the lead that is going to be affected. So this is going to be the direction. So my precordial leads are affected in an LAD occlusion. If I'm having a LCX occlusion, so it is going to go like this. So which are the leads do you think will be affected? In LCX occlusion, LCX, yes. Then along with V5, V6, any other lead that you are seeing? And then DVL, correct. Okay, correct. So all these leads will be affected in an LCX occlusion. Okay, clear? That's all. It's very simple. So this is about the blood supply. You don't have to remember so many details because there are multiple blood supplies to the same organ. So remember that 60% of the blood supply is from the RCA, and for the AV node it is predominantly only the RCA. Okay, so it is 90%. Right bundle branch gets a dual blood supply. It is from the branches of the LAD as well as the RCA. Important to remember here is the anterior and posterior fascicle. Very common is the anterior fascicular block because it is very sensitive to ischemia because it is supplied only by the LAD. LAD is very commonly going to be affected. Whereas the posterior fascicle is thicker and it has dual blood supply, RCA and the LAD. That is why it is resistant to ischemia. Okay, clear until now? Why 1 and AVL? Because they are also lateral leads. That's why 1 and AVL is also affected. We'll see with ECGs. So what do I mean by an acute coronary syndrome is there are a spectrum of changes that occur predominantly because of an acute plaque change in the coronary vessels. So this is the spectrum. So one is called as an unstable angina, one is called as a non-ST elevation myocardial infarction, one is called as an ST elevation myocardial infarction. Let's say patient had a baseline ischemia. So on exertion he used to get chest pain, and with rest he used to get relief. Suddenly patient starts developing chest pain and it is increasing progressively. So possibility is there is some occlusion or there is some spasm in the coronary artery. Okay, these are the possibilities. So that may be associated with an infarct. That is, there may be some ischemia and clinically it may manifest as an infarct. Okay, that is one possibility. Or transiently there was ischemia and it got relieved. That is one more possibility. Okay. So whenever there is transient ischemia and it is going to be released, so it is not going to cause death of the cell. If there is no death of the cell, then there is so the patient will have transient symptoms and he will recover. Okay, so whenever there is a myocyte injury, what is going to happen is you're going to have an increase in the biomarkers or troponins. I'll come to that. Okay, someone is asking me to repeat probably. Yeah. Okay, fine. Enzymes, correct. So you'll have to look at the enzymes. So enzymes elevation, does it mean there is a death? Does it mean there is an infarct or it means an injury? So I want to make this also very clear. So if you have an elevation in the troponins, what does it indicate? Injury or infarct? Injury. Someone says injury. Yeah. Okay, injury. Very good. Always remember this. It doesn't mean that the patient has a death of the myocardium. It is still a salvageable myocardium. My voice is breaking. Huh? Is my voice better now? Okay, fine. Yeah. So whenever there is an elevation in my cardiac biomarkers, it doesn't mean that there is a death of the tissue. There may be a death of the tissue, there may not be death of the tissue. So all that the biomarker elevation indicates is there is myocardial injury and not myocardial necrosis. Myocardial necrosis you should take in the context of a clinical spectrum also. Okay, so that is what I want to stress upon. So these are the differences. Okay, so unstable angina is because of a non-occlusive thrombus, very non-specific ECG changes. And you see here, cardiac enzymes are absolutely normal. This is important. So when you have an NST, non-ST elevation myocardial infarction, the thrombus is not complete. So it's a partial thrombus. The thrombus is partial. Okay, this is one thing. So along with this, what happens is, along with this, mainly you will have ST depression and T wave inversions on the ECG. You will have cardiac enzymes that will be elevated. Okay. In ST elevation myocardial infarction, it is going to be a complete occlusion. It is going to be a complete thrombus. So there is total occlusion. So this is called as a transmural. Transmural means through and through. From one wall to the other wall, both walls are affected. Mura means wall. So one wall to the other wall is affected. That is transmural. This is not transmural in NST elevation myocardial infarction. But both will have elevation in cardiac enzymes. And based on the ECG pattern, we tell STEMI versus NSTEMI. Okay. Clear? Why name it infarction? Yeah, that is the misnomer. That is why the recent this one. So you can have elevation of troponins which are not due to MI also. Let's say patient has a CKD. Patient will have an elevated cardiac enzymes. But is it infarction? No. So that is why everything has to correlate. There are so many causes of an increase in troponins. D-dimer itself, whenever you have pulmonary embolism, that can cause elevation in troponins. So all that the troponin elevation indicates is there is a myocardial injury. That is all. Okay. So whenever I have a cardiac troponin elevation, so it may be non-specific, okay? It may be non-specific. So it indicates a cardiac activity, that is okay. But then there are other conditions that can increase the troponins. So this is a cutoff that is taken, 14 nanogram per liter. So to the 99th percentile, that is the 99th percentile. If the first set is elevated, okay, then you see how much is the elevation. Is it marginal elevation or it is very much marked elevation? Let's say you had same patient I showed you the ECG of. Patient came and he had high elevated troponins. So that means it fits into a presentation. There is clinical evidence of ischemia and infarct that is happening. So that means that compatible is presentation. So you can call it as a myocardial infarction. Okay. But then initially you are thinking that patient might have an ischemia. Okay. Let's say you are thinking of an unstable angina, or you're thinking that it may go into a non-ST elevation myocardial infarction. That time what you do is you repeat the troponins after 3 to 6 hours. Okay. If there is more than 20% change, that means there should be an increase of more than 20%. Remember this. That is why we call a serial troponins that we measure, 0 hours and 6 hours. No. So you can make it a 0, 3 and 6. Okay. So then in these, if there is more than 20% elevation, then you can start thinking of, is it happening? And background histories, it should everything is clinical here. Clinical with biomarker evidence. So then you think of, if it is a compatible presentation, you think as a myocardial infarction and you go in this direction. Clear? How we interpret troponins. This is also very important. If it is no, what if that patient conditions worsens in that 3 to 6 hours? If that patient is so serious, then by the time, what in case of silent MI? That is what you should have a high degree of suspicion. That is why it is all clinical with biochemical evidence. It's clinical with biochemical. Patient has some vague symptoms and patient comes diabetic. So in case of silent MI, that is why many times they undergo sudden cardiac death and all. So that is why high degree of suspicion. Some mild symptoms will be there. Even though you have neuropathy, sweating will still be spared. So that is why whenever diabetic patient sweating all is there, should be very careful for ischemia. If patient condition worsens in that 3 to 6, stress ECG, you don't do in acute setting. So let's say patient has on and off chest pain in the background. Okay, exertional chest pain. In ACS you can't do stress testing. What do you mean by stress testing is? So this is my coronary artery. Okay, let's say there is some small occlusion here. Okay, let's say there is some atherosclerosis here. Percentage, let's say it is about 40% or 50%. Let's say 40% here. Okay, so now this is the normal blood supply. So distally. So let's say this is the distal muscle. Okay. Since someone brought this up, I'm just discussing. Okay. You should understand what do you mean by stress test. In chronic stable angina, you can. Correct. So this is how you understand it. So this is my myocardium. Okay. So normally what is going to happen is, this is the normal direction of blood flow. So normally if this muscle is also enough with this amount of blood supply and it is also happy. Now let's say you are going to make the patient run in a treadmill. Okay. If I'm going to make the patient run in a treadmill, that means the amount of blood it will try to increase. Okay. But then what is going to happen is, the blood supply will reduce to this part. If there is an occlusion. See, this much is sufficient. But then my demand when I'm going to exercise is going to increase. When my demand increases, but then the same amount of blood cannot come. We need more amount of blood which will not come. So that means there will be some amount of ischemia that the heart will develop. So that time patient will start developing chest pain or some symptoms. And in the ECG, there will be some ST depressions. Okay. So that means this will say that the TMT test is positive. How do you call it positive, negative is beyond today's discussion. Okay, yeah. So increased demand, so you will get out this one. So that is positive test. You understood? We don't do it in an acute setting. We do it only for a chronic setting. I hope it is clear now. So understand this. Okay, so non-invasive stratification, you look for other causes. Okay. So these are the causes for elevated. These are the causes for infarction. If patient is having an infarction in the absence of atherosclerosis, these are the causes. So it can be either, basically it can be an oxygen supply demand mismatch, or there can be an embolism from any source. It may be an endocarditis, it can be a prosthetic valve, it can be some paradoxical embolus from somewhere, it can be a arteritis or a vasculitis that is there. Okay, congenital Alcapa, all that is there. Okay, and important is hematological in situ thrombosis. This is also very common. Hematological causes are very common. Hypercoagulable state is common. Okay, so these are all the causes. You don't have to remember. It might worsen. Correct. Okay. So now I'll ask you a question. We don't really, no, we don't classify it based on the QA. That is gone. Okay, so I'm sure we all know that thrombolysis is the treatment for MI. I'm sure everyone knows. Now for NST elevation, for non-ST elevation myocardial infarction, we don't do a thrombolysis. Have you guys wondered why? You remember that, okay? I'll come back to this tomorrow maybe when I discuss management. Okay, so today's is mainly on the ECG and how to diagnose. Can someone try answering, or if you know, you can answer. Why thrombolysis is not given for? Okay, there is still an occlusion, no? There is still an occlusion. It is going to cause some symptom. Embolia risk. Formation of new thrombus. There is partial occlusion already, so you can't cause anything more. There is already some hemorrhage, someone says. That means if you're saying hemorrhage is the cause, then let's say this is a full thrombus here. Here I'm going to still thrombolyze. That time also hemorrhage will be there, no? Reperfusion injury, then it is going to be more with this ST elevation myocardial infarction than non-ST elevation. Because in non-ST elevation, I'm still having some amount of blood supply that is going. There is only partial occlusion, not complete occlusion. Exposure, okay. Small fragments, emboli. If you're going to give a thrombolysis, emboli also will dissolve, no? Okay, think about it, I'll come to it. Okay, so this is the summary of whatever we discussed. You can see it again. So very classical symptoms. So you'll have positive and negative troponin here, positive here, positive here. So immediate reperfusion is the therapy that is advised. Early invasive strategy for angiogram. Let's see, if possible, I'll cover this tomorrow. Okay. So we'll understand what is going to happen in the ECG when there is ischemia. If you're not able to get this part, it's all right. If you don't get this also, okay. So for this, I'll explain it here itself. So this is my action potential. This is my action potential. Okay. So this is phase 4 of action potential. Okay. This is phase 4 of action potential. So this is mainly causing a resting membrane potential. Okay. This is moving to cause a resting membrane potential. What is the play? Coagulopathy. No. Okay. So let's say this is my normal cell. I'll take 4 cells. I'll take 4 cells. I'll take 4 cells. Okay. So we know that inside of the cell is going to be negative, outside is going to be positive. The reason being, you have the sodium potassium ATPase pump. So that is going to pump out 3 sodium that is going to come out and 2 potassium that is going to go in. So 3 sodium is going to go out. So that maintains this negative. So this is going to be the same. Okay, so let's say only this cell. Only this cell. So only that cell is having an ischemia. Let's say only this cell. So I'm going to draw a new cell. So this cell is having an ischemia. So when there is ischemia, what is going to happen? ATP is not going to be generated. So if ATP is not going to be generated. If there is no ATP, what is going to happen? This pump is not going to work. If this pump is not going to work, the inside of the cell is going to become positive. Outside is going to become negative. Correct? So this creates a potential difference. So the electrons are going to move like this. Okay. So this is going to create a vector in this direction. Okay. So understood this. This is what is going to happen at the level of the cell. Okay. So this part is where the cell is in diastole. Okay. So now what happens? So I'll correlate this with the ECG now. So now what happens? You see here. So this is going to be my normal ECG. This is going to be my normal ECG. This is going to be my normal ECG. So this is my cell, and this is going to be my QRS. Not that wide of a QRS. I'll just draw it very brief one, so that we'll understand what we are trying to tell. Okay. Okay, so this is what is happening. So this part here is what is getting affected, correct? So if that part is getting affected, so now what is going to happen is there is going to be, so let's say during diastole. So let's say during diastole. Okay, let's say this is only one part of my myocyte, my myocardium. Okay, this part is my myocardium. Let's say only some small portion here. So this is called as a subendocardial. This is called as subendocardial ischemia. Whenever there is subendocardial ischemia, what happens? Now the impulse now is going to go in which direction? It is going to go in. So whenever we have a lead, whenever we have electrical activity going towards a lead, it is going to become positive, and whenever it is going to go away from the lead, it is going to become negative. We know this. So this is the direction in which the current is going to move. So from the infarcted site, it is going to move in this direction. That means this lead will show an elevation. Okay, it is going to show an elevation. So if this is my baseline is going to be my TP segment. This is my diastole. This is happening during diastole. Okay, so during diastole, this is what is there. This is my baseline. Okay, so next what happens is, listen carefully. If you don't get it, it's okay. I'll try to explain it as simple as possible. So next what is happening is, so this is going to be elevated. Okay, this is going to be elevated, correct? This is what is going to happen towards the lead, and it's going to be elevated. So the new baseline is going to be this. This is going to be the new baseline. So that means, but this part that is going to be represented, this is going to be represented by the ST segment. Okay, this part is going to be represented by the ST segment. This ST segment will have no change because there is depth there. So this will be my new baseline. So this is what is shown here. Whenever you have a subendocardial ischemia, so during diastole, this will be the direction of the vector. During systole, this will be the direction of vector. So that means, so this is what is the systole, which is the TP segment. So there is this is my baseline. There is going to be an elevation in my baseline. Okay, and during systole, that is going to occur immediately after the QRS, and that is represented by the ST segment. There is going to be a depression here. So this is what is going to give us an appearance like this of ST depression. ST depression. ST depression is not actually happening. It is the ST elevation that is happening. In the sense, there is a vector that is causing a positive deflection, but it is changing the baseline. Why this is happening is because you're not able to understand this. You're getting this? You got this? You're getting this point, no? Yeah. Okay. So remember this. You forget about all that. So let's say this is the injured site. Let's say this is an injured site. So from here, the impulse is going to go away. It is like calling for help. So from here, it is sending signal outside. So think it like that. So once this is happening during diastole, the diastole is represented by the TP segment. Okay. So this is the segment that is there. So this is going to be my baseline. So let's say this is my baseline. That should be normally there. Most of the machines that we use, the ECG machines, they are going to check only this. They are going to determine only this. Okay. But then this is what is happening. So it is going to elevate the baseline itself. So when it is going to elevate the baseline, this part here, the ST segment is going to remain unaffected. So if the whole thing is going to get elevated without this being affected, it is going to appear as an ST depression. This is going to be the same. It is not going to do anything. But then because the whole thing is getting elevated, this remains the same. It appears as if this is depressed. So that is why we get an ST depression. Okay. Why is it elevated? Because there's a vector, elevation vector that is going to happen during diastole. We'll not go into too much of details of this. If you're interested, you can read up. It is going to be elevated because of net charge is more. I explained previously. Okay, remember only these two things. Diastole, this is going to be the direction of the elevation vector. During systole, this is going to be the direction. So if there is the electrode that is here, during diastole, it is going to show a positive deflection. And during systole, it is going to show a negative deflection. So that is exactly what is happening here. During diastole, it is increasing. So the baseline is increasing. So elevation here and a depression here. So this is causing a ST depression. Exact opposite happens. So during diastole, the direction is going to be the same. But where is the injury is what is from the injured to the non-injured site only. Now you see here in diastole. So this is the injury site. So it is going to go away. So diastole is going to go this and systole is going to cause this to happen. So that means it gives a appearance that there is an elevation. But is there an elevation? No, it's more like a depression only. So because the baseline is changing, so it is like the baseline is shifted downward, it appears as if there is an elevation. Clear? May not be clear, just see. Remember that in diastole this happens, this is what happens. In diastole what happens? This is what is going to happen. From the injured side to the non-injured side is where the direction goes. Okay. So remember only so much. Reason I explained that this is one myocardial cell, this is one more myocardial cell. If this is getting ischemia, normally there is resting membrane potential. This is going to be negative, positive. But then if this is ischemic, the pump doesn't work. So this is going to create a charge difference here. So from negative to positive, the impulse is going to go in all direction to all the cells. So as it spreads in all direction, it is going to create a vector here. Okay. So that vector during diastole. So imagine this is my heart and this is my ischemic part here. So this is going to be the direction. Okay. So if this is going to be my direction, this is my direction, this part will show an elevation. Okay. But then when the repolarization is going to happen, it sees that this is not really very effective. So it causes an isoelectric segment there. So this part behaves electrically inert. So what is only happening is it is changing the baseline to an elevation. So if this is my baseline TP segment, it is going to become here. Okay, if it is going to become here, and when the repolarization happens, this is going to be silent. So it is not going to show any elevation. So that is why you get a ST depression. So this is going to be the new baseline. So if this is my new baseline, so QRS is formed, but then this is not going to show anything. So it causes a depression here. Okay. It's okay if you don't get it. Just remember that when there is a subtotal or trans, whenever there is subendocardial ischemia, you get an ST depression. Whenever you get a transmural ischemia, you get an ST elevation. If you remember so much, it's enough for today. Vector change during systole. That is all because of electrical currents. Okay. So remember only so much. We'll keep it simple. If you're interested, you can just see it. I'll send you the link. You can see it up. You can just put the question in the White Army group and we'll answer it. Okay. We'll send you the link where you can read it up. Because there are chances you might get confused. So remember that whenever there is a ischemia there, which is subendocardial, you get ST depression. Whenever you get subepicardial or transmural infarct, so this is the direction it is going to move in. So remember only like this. So whenever there is, it's going to move in this direction. Whenever there is transmural, so it is going to go in this direction. So let's say this whole thing is gone. So there is nothing. So only thing it can go is in this direction. So it is going to go away from the electrode. So it is going to cause a ST depression. So in the sense, it's going to cause a negative wave. So this negative wave is what is going to cause a shift, downward shift. Okay. So the baseline itself is shifted down. So you can forget the systolic vector if you don't get it. If you're able to understand this whole concept using diastolic vector, it is well and good. So it is going to go away. So the baseline is going to drop, except only this part, which is going to remain electrically inert. So it is going to cause a elevation of the J point and the ST segment. So same thing, exact opposite happens here. Okay. Yeah, I'll come to which lead you should look for. Yeah. So this is clear. So ST depression, this is ST elevation. Okay. So these are the changes that happen. Earliest, whenever there is total occlusion, I'll talk mainly on ST elevation myocardial infarction because that is very important, not to be missed, life-threatening. So the earliest will be tall tented T wave. When we call this a tall T wave is when the T wave is more than two-third of the R wave. This is one definition. When the T wave is more than two-third of the R wave, it is called as a tall T wave. Okay, or if the amplitude is more than 10 to 15 millimeter, then also it is called as a tall T wave. More than 15 millimeter here and 10 millimeter on the limb leads. And then what happens? We saw the ST elevation that is going to happen. Okay. Following that, what is going to happen is you're going to get a Q wave formation. If you get a Q wave formation, the duration is approximately around 12 hours, 8 to 12 hours minimum. And then what is going to happen is the T wave starts getting inverted. Okay. And then it's like it elevates and then comes back to the baseline. Okay. So that is what is going to happen. So then you get a permanent Q wave and then the baseline dips down. So early Q wave means this myocardium is still viable. So you can still do it. You can try to go for an intervention. So remember that this is true. ST elevation myocardial infarction. So MI can cause an ST elevation. So that means ST elevation can be seen in an MI. Correct? Okay. But then not all ST elevations are due to MI. That also you should remember. Whenever you see ST elevation, don't immediately jump and say, oh, it is MI. No. There are so many other causes for ST elevation. So you can remember by the mnemonic elevation. So electrolytes, left bundle branch block. We'll come to this, what is benign early repo. We have seen this bundle branch block. Then whenever there is ventricular hypertrophy, you can get some amount of elevation. There are some arrhythmias like Brugada or ventricular tachycardia and LV aneurysm that can cause this. Then whenever there is raised ICP, you can have again an ST elevation or ST depression. Whenever there is an infarct or an injury or inflammation, you can have like pericarditis. Whenever there is hypothermia, you can have, or whenever there is vasospasm, you can have. Okay. So someone asked me ST elevation. So when do we call it as an ST elevation or when is it significant? See, this is from the latest, this one. It is called as Fourth Universal Definition of Myocardial Infarction. It's published in 2018 by, it's a combination, European Society of Cardiology, American College of Cardiology and American Heart Association. Yes. So you see here, you look at all the leads, okay? Two contiguous leads. What do we mean by contiguous leads is, let's say if it is a lateral lead, it's like one AVL V5 V6. In two of these leads, it should be there. So if it is an inferior wall, so if it is an inferior, it should be 2, 3 and AVF. So let's say I take in lead 1. So lead 1 is a lateral lead. So in more than 2 lateral leads, it should be there. That is what they mean. So contiguous means the leads that is looking at the same segment of the heart. Okay, that is a cutoff. So that is more than 1 millimeter, more than equal to 1 millimeter in all the leads. Except, look at this, always remember this. Because many times you get, many people will ask you when you're practicing that patient has V2, V3, ST elevation is there. So should I go and say this is an MI? No. See, this is the cutoff. In lead 2, in V2 and V3, you can have amount of elevation. What is the amount of elevation? This is the cutoff that is mentioned. More than 2 millimeter or more than 2.5 millimeter. Okay. If patient is more than 40 years, male versus female, this is changing. Okay. More than 2 millimeter in men, that is more than 40 years. and more than 2.5 in men less than 40 years. So if you are younger, you can have more ST elevation in men. In women, there is nothing like cutoff in age. 1.5 millimeters the cutoff for women. Okay, remember this, very important, guys. Okay, yeah. At J point, J point means the point where the QRS and the ST segment meet. This is called as the J point. Okay. So if this is my J point, so normally what can happen? This can become my J point. So that is when you get an ST elevation. Okay. So that is the important thing to remember. J point, normal variation you should remember. Okay. Or if there is an ST depression, so what is the criteria for ST depression is, you see here, it should be more than or equal to 0.5 millimeter. It should be downsloping ST depression. So there are types of ST depression also. Let's say this is my QRS. So there can be something like this. So this is flat. Okay. So there can be something like this. Something like this. This is an upsloping ST depression. Upsloping ST depression is not ischemia. Okay. Upsloping ST depression is not ischemia. Downsloping ST depression definitely. Or horizontal. Horizontal and downsloping is important. That is the morphology that you should have. In two contiguous leads. Okay, in two contiguous leads. Okay, with or without T wave inversions more than 1 millimeter. So this is what you should remember. Okay, so this is what I said you. These two are clear. This point is clear, no? These 2 points are clear. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, fine. So this is the localization. I'm sure we all know. So 1 and AVL is the lateral lead. If I have ST elevation in these leads, that's called as an inferior wall. This is the septal wall. These two are anterior. This is lateral. Fine. So if we are thinking, we'll think of whenever we have an ST elevation, we'll see in which lead there is ST elevation. That is the first key to identify. So let's say this is, you imagine the hexaaxial reference system like this. So this is what you will remember as. So but then what are these gaps here? What are these gaps? What are these gaps? So we saw that day, no, when we were calculating axis. So this part is just exactly opposite to that. It is just minus AVF. This part is just minus 3. This part is just minus 2. So this part will be just minus 1. This part will be minus AVR. This part will be minus AVL. So if you add all this, this becomes a 360 degree. So always whenever you are seeing one activity in one side, let's say you are seeing some activity here. That means in this side, you are going to have exact opposite. So let's say ST elevation. So you saw the ST elevation. You are seeing ST elevation in this lead. So if you are seeing an ST elevation in this lead, so what do you expect to happen in this lead here? What do you expect to happen in this lead? So it's like a mirror is there here. So let's say there is something here like this. Okay. So if I'm seeing the exact opposite, what is going to happen here? It is going to be like this. Correct? The QA won't have. Okay. So this is ST depression. Depression. So depression is going to happen. So that is what is we want you to understand. Okay. There is no minus lead 3. Exactly. There is no minus lead 3. So the nearest lead to it is very good. You've asked a very good question. So there is no minus lead 3 here then. What is the nearest lead to it? AVL. So that is why this, whatever there is going to be an ST elevation, this is going to have a reciprocal change. Reciprocal means exact opposite. So you're going to have a reciprocal change in the opposite lead. So the nearest opposite lead is lead AVL. Correct. So that is why we call as reciprocal changes in an MI. Okay. So we'll understand this. We'll see this now. You see here. This was the first ECG I gave you. You see here. The ST elevation is not very obvious in the inferior lead. Okay. But then here you are seeing ST depression in 1 AVL. 1 and AVL you are seeing ST depression. So that means if there is an ST depression here, so if there is a ST depression in this direction, that means there should be an ST elevation in which direction? Along which lead you are going to get an ST elevation? Along lead 3. But then is it as prominent as the ST depression is very prominent, correct? The ST depression is more prominent or ST elevation is more prominent? You feel the ST elevation is more prominent. You're able to make out ST elevation more prominent. Yes, there is ST elevation in inferior lead also, correct? There is ST elevation in inferior lead also. But then because that scenario was fitting in, you can say, but then if it, so can it be not a combined effect? No. So what is the primary cause? Primary cause is what we have to look at. So this is what I wanted to make it very clear. So this is happening reciprocal to this. This is happening reciprocal to this. Because the primary insult is in the inferior wall, we are getting an ST depression like this. Okay. How do I know that? So imagine this is my ST elevation here. Imagine this is my ST elevation here. We always look at the direction of ST elevation. So if the ST elevation is in this direction, you should get an ST depression in this direction. If you're saying there's an ST elevation in this direction, so let's say you're saying there is ST depression. So your question is there is an ST depression in this direction. So if there is an ST depression in this direction, what can cause an ST depression like that? There should be some ischemia there. So if there is an ischemia here, okay, it should be a subendocardial ischemia. There should be a subendocardial ischemia for it to cause only T-wave inversions like this. Okay, but then you should, it is happening in the contiguous leads. It is happening in the contiguous leads. Depression is not the primary cause. Here depression is not the primary cause. Your elevation is the primary cause for this depression. I'm saying depression is very prominent here compared to the elevations. So whenever you're having only depressions like this, so you have to think that in the opposite lead there is some elevation that is happening. Okay, so that time you'll have to look carefully at the exactly opposite lead, because why we have to, primary pathology is elevation only, correct? The lesion is, primary pathology is elevation only. Why I'm saying is, if this is the only lead you are seeing, let's say I'm not very careful now. So I'm not looked carefully at the inferior lead. I'm seeing only this. So I'll say, okay, so this is non-ST elevation myocardial infarction. So I'll say, okay, we'll wait, we'll not thrombolize, we'll wait. What is going to happen? The patient is going to have a poor outcome because time is muscle. If you waste the time, the muscle will die. So that is why you should be very careful and you should look actively. So when you are getting a depression like this, look immediately at the opposite lead. So if you're thinking there can be some possibility, repeat the ECG in some time. That is why you should get serial ECG. We call it a serial ECG. So you take it now, then take it after maybe 20 minutes, take it after again 20-30 minutes. So there will be evolutionary changes that come in. So that time you'll say, okay, so this is an MI. So I have to be very careful. Yes, this is inferior wall MI. This is inferior wall MI. So is everyone clear? This is inferior wall MI. You got this concept? You got this concept of reciprocal changes? Everyone is clear with reciprocal changes? I want this to be very clear to you guys. How to know if ischemia is causing depression or elevation? Because transmural in one region and subendocardial in the other. So that is what I was telling you. Whenever you are having only ischemia that is there. So let's say you are assuming this to be ischemia. We'll take that scenario. Okay. So you can think that this is only ischemia, but then you have to look at the opposite lead also. Okay, you have to look at the opposite lead also. So when you look at the exact opposite lead, so you are seeing some ST elevation. Even if you're not seeing, you have to get serial ECGs. Even at the slightest suspicion of an MI, you have to look at this. Okay. No, if the patient is having, see, primary pathology is not ST depression. Primary pathology is in STEMI or STEMI. So that is the pathology you should think of. So this is the pathological basis based on which all the findings we are getting. Okay, how to know the primary cause? It is only by serial ECGs. Sometimes it will be very obvious. Yes, reciprocal change will always be present. if there is an ST elevation myocardial infarction in STEMI, you will get reciprocal change. You will get reciprocal change. So you have to look. Sometimes it may not be very obvious. So you have to look for it actively. So that is what I was telling you. So now in the inferior lead, let's say there is ST elevation here. So you will get ST depression here. So don't think that, okay, this is an NSTEMI and this is a STEMI. It doesn't work that way. So it is ST elevation here and ST depression here. So this is secondary to the ST elevation itself. Then diagnosis is STEMI. If you're getting only ST depression with no elevations, serial ECG is not showing elevations, T wave may or may not be there. T wave may or may not be there. Predominantly it is for the ST segment only. Okay, fine. So tell me here, what is it now? Yeah, if the reciprocal change is always there, how do we know which is the primary cause? See, think what is happening pathophysiologically, Skywalker. Why is both the things happening? It is because of a total occlusion. When there is a total occlusion, only then you will get an ST elevation. Only then you will get an ST elevation. Otherwise, you won't get. Correct. So if you are getting an elevation, that means the exact opposite lead will show ST depression. If you are getting only ST depressions like this, you are not seeing ST elevation. Only then you think of an NSTEMI. You have to look. That is why sometimes the ST elevation may not be obvious. See here, the ST elevation is not very obvious. Here it is very obvious here. So that is why you have to do a serial ECG. You will check the troponin. So that will show in both. Okay. So how do you say NSTEMI versus STEMI? You look at ST elevation. If there is ST elevation, so contiguous leads. So here you see here. I'll explain it. So here you are seeing ST elevation in 2, 3 and AVF. So there are contiguous leads. Okay. So the exact opposite lead, which is 1 and AVL. So it is going to show ST depression. So which means this is normal. You expect this. So you are going to expect this to happen. Correct. So that is why this will be inferior wall ST elevation myocardial infarction. Is it clear? Is it clear? Yeah. You got it, no? Yeah. So now you tell me for this. So guys, whenever you look for a, you look at all the walls. Okay. So here you have inferior wall. Okay. You're having also in the lateral wall. Okay. Remember this also. Are you seeing this here? Something peculiar here. Something like this. Okay. So let's say this is my heart. I'm seeing it from the side. So this is going to be my anterior wall. This is going to be my posterior wall. Okay. So let's say there is ST elevation in the posterior wall. This is my lead here. So can it see a posterior wall ST elevation? So the lead here is going to see this as a ST depression. Correct? Yes. In lead 1, depression is not prominent. Correct? So that makes you think that there is a, what did I tell you initially? Yeah, V1, V2 and AV are findings. Correct. Someone has picked it up. Very good, Spurti. Okay. So what do you think here? So you're understanding this part. So if this is my heart, so this is my anterior wall, this is my posterior wall, this is my posterior wall. So if there is an infarct here, so ST elevation will happen like this. But then it is going to here for this lead, it will be like there is a ST depression. Okay. So that is what it is indicating here. So there is a ST depression here in this lead. So it is like an ST elevation, but this is the ST elevation of the posterior wall. So that appears like a ST depression. So this is a posterior wall. So you can't see the posterior wall directly. So you're using an anterior wall indirectly and saying this is a posterior wall. So this is indicating a posterior wall. So you're having a inferior wall. Okay, you're having an inferior wall. Correct. Then you're having a posterior wall. Correct. Then you're also having the lateral wall, which is V5, V6. So inferior, posterior, and lateral wall. Okay. Now, important thing is you can actually localize what is the artery involved. Think this way now. We'll see it later. It's not really required. See, if this is my ST elevation, okay, imagine this. So you see where is the elevation maximum. Okay, so let's say this is my elevation that is going to be maximum. If this is the direction of ST elevation that is going to be maximum, that means ST depression should be maximum in lead AVL and to some extent in lead 1. Okay, so this is what is there. So now what is going to happen is, if I have an isoelectric lead 1, this indicates that there is a LCX occlusion, not RCA but LCX. This proves LCX also. See, you're having an inferior wall. I told you that whenever there is an LCX occlusion, you will get posterior wall also which can be involved. Okay, the key to identifying an LCX occlusion is look at lead 1. Okay, look at lead 1. So if the lead 1 is showing ST depression, then it means there is RCA occlusion. If there is lead 1 that is showing only isoelectric ST, then it is LCX occlusion. If you don't get this, it's okay. We don't expect you to know. You should just able to be, see, the objective of my presentation is, you should be able to say there is MI or no. Localizing the wall doesn't matter because angiographically there are so many changes that are going to be there. So it doesn't really matter. It is just fun to say, okay, this wall is affected, that wall is affected, all that academic discussions. So come on, let's go with this. Okay, so you tell me what all is there. Okay, start. ST elevation. Don't say STEMI, say ST elevation in lead 1. So you're saying this is my baseline. So this is ST elevation in lead AVL also. So whenever I have an ST elevation in those leads, so please answer question in YouTube White Army channel also. Yeah, I answered the question, no, Naveen? What is the question? You tell it now. I'll answer it after this. Okay. Yeah. So there is ST elevation here and ST depression here. So it may be confusing for now. So initially what you can do is you describe what is there. So there is ST elevation in 1 AVL, ST depression in 2, 3 and AVF. Okay. Are we seeing some ST elevations here? Maybe borderline ST elevation in V2, V3. Not very significant, but so this is, so along with that you are seeing some tachycardia. So there is sinus tachycardia. Okay. So that means that there is ST elevation along the lateral lead, ST depression in the inferior lead. So you expect this whenever there is a lateral wall elevation. So the reciprocal lead is going to be the inferior wall. So this is expected. So that means the primary cause for this is an elevation. So this is a lateral wall myocardial infarction, correct? Lateral wall myocardial infarction, correct? So this is called as a lateral wall MI. So what will be the cause for a lateral wall MI? Lateral wall MI is because of what occlusion? Can you tell me? Lateral wall. So this is my lateral wall. LCX. Very good. Okay. So are you seeing something here which is a little different, which is ST elevation in V5 and V6? It is not there. That means this is what is called as a high lateral wall. That means only these two leads are affected, but then the inferior lead is not going to be affected. So this is called as a high lateral wall. Okay. It's called as a high lateral wall. High lateral lead and low lateral lead. You can think as V5, V6 as a low lateral lead and 1 and AVL as a high lateral lead. So this is called as a high lateral wall MI. Okay, clear? Isn't there elevation in septal leads also? Yes, minimal. That's what I told you. You have to look at elevation is there, but how much is the elevation? So 1 and 2 millimeter. So 2 millimeter, is it normal, abnormal? What did I tell you now? The universal definition of myocardial infarction. Yes, that is why you should be very careful. You will look at some ST elevations here, but then you should interpret in the clinical picture. Correct. Very good. It's normal. Correct. Okay, got it. I think I am in. Yeah, fine. I think this is my last ECG. Yeah. You tell me now, where all you're seeing elevations. So here you see, this is my baseline. Here you're seeing how much? 1, 2, 3, 4 millimeter, 4 to 5 millimeters there. Okay. And then you're seeing ST depressions in 2, 3 AVF. You're seeing ST elevations in V1, V2. You're seeing ST elevations in V1, V2, V3. Correct, 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 correct. So tell me, what is the diagnosis? You tell me which wall is involved, that's all. Is it ST elevation or is it non-ST elevation? Which wall? Anterior wall, correct. Anteroseptal, correct, correct, correct. Correct, very good, very good, very good. STEMI, anteroseptal, very good. Clear, guys? Are you clear with these concepts, no? Yes, good, good, very good, very good. Everyone, excellent. Okay, so if that is very clear, I think I'll end for today. Why not anterolateral? Yes, very good. Someone asked me. So you are having some amount of lateral wall also, no? So it can be anterolateral also. But LED only is affected. Maybe some small branches that are there. 2 millimeter, no. This 2 millimeter is only for V2, V3, not for all the leads. That's why I was very clear when it said. You see that again. When I was defining that, you see here. It's only for V2, V3, not for all the leads. Okay, be very careful. Yes, that is a reciprocal change. Whenever there is an anterior wall MI, this is the direction actually. So if you imagine this is my precordial lead, if I'm seeing the heart like this, okay, so the anterior wall will cause an elevation like this and like this, so anteriorly. So this is my inferior lead, no, it is going to be here. So it is going to show ST depression here. Clear? You decide the baseline based on the TP segment. That is most preferred. PR segment or TP segment, both are taken. You can take any of that. Okay, clear, clear. Okay. The last ECG, ST depression. Here, this ECG you mean? Or this ECG? This ECG only, no? How anterior wall? Sorry, not this ECG, sorry. In this ECG, yeah, this ECG, no? Okay, fine, I'll tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. So which is this lead? So I'm having ST elevations in the anterior leads, V1, V2 and V3. So is it significant ST elevation? Definitely yes. And are you seeing these T waves? They are hyperacute. They are hyperacute T waves. You see the T wave, it is more than the QRS complex. So this is one indication of a ongoing ischemia. Okay, this T wave is more than the QRS complex itself. Okay, along with that, there is ST elevation. Okay, and you're seeing here, so very symmetric. These T waves usually are symmetric like this, symmetric T waves and tall. Okay, so whenever I am having an ST elevation, so let's say this is my lateral view. So this is my V1, V2. Let's say there are some leads here, V1, V2. So if it is anterior, it is going to go like this. The elevation is going to be like this. Okay. So if this is my inferior wall, so this is going to be the inferior surface of the heart. So my lead is going to see here. So if the ST elevation vector is going to go in this direction, I will get ST depression in the inferior leads, correct? So exactly I have ST elevations here. Along with that, I have ST depression in 2, 3 and AVF. Okay. So that is why this is a anterior wall MI, anterior J point in V1. J point you want me to show? Okay, I'll show you the J point. This is my J point. This is my J point. This is my J point. Okay. What is the significance of ST depression here? There is no significance. It is just that it is reciprocal to the lateral lead. That's all. The previous lead, yeah. Want me to mark the ST segment in V2? There is no ST segment. See, this is the J point. J point. See, this is my baseline. This is the J point here. ST segment is gone here. It's elevated here. ST segment T wave is going. V5, that might be baseline. See, because here you see this lead is showing like this. and this lead is like this. So there might be some technical this one also. Okay. Axis in LAD, so axis in LAD MI. This one, axis you want. Axis is 1, so net is, so 1. It's a normal axis here. Normal axis, AVF is almost equal. So if AVF is almost equal, it's like almost 0. 1 is positive. So it may be maximum of physiologic left axis, that's all. Then that here AVR should also be ST depression since it's opposite to vector. I didn't give that question. Okay. Okay, fine. So until now, is it clear? You're all clear with how to diagnose an MI? Okay. If you're not clear with how to diagnose an MI, I think we'll finish for today now. Someone has answered. Excellent. I'll give it to him. Yes, I'll give you a checklist to what all you go through. Okay, yeah. And why the baseline is affected and why ST segment is isoelectric. I didn't want to go into this. It is based on the current. So we are not still having an hypothesis of, you don't have a clear-cut theory of why ST elevation or why ST depression occurs. It is just a hypothesis that is proposed. It's called as current of injury hypothesis. Okay. Yeah. In STEMI, no ST elevation. Correct. Okay. Yeah. Why baseline is affected? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I think I'll end the class for today.